Page 17, Rules Report 550. Clerk will read.
Assembly Number 1962B, Rules Report 550, Mr. Anderson, an act to amend the penal law.
An explanation has been requested. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill is a very simple bill that would amend safe storage to make it a violation for anyone who fails to safely store a firearm, a shotgun, or a rifle, and establish a misdemeanor for failure to store when accessible by a minor or a prohibited person. Most importantly, Madam Speaker, this bill moves us to the gold standard of gun safety. There are several states, which I'm sure I will share during today's debate, that have adopted this level of standard to ensure that young people do not get access to firearms. This bill accomplishes that in three ways. I create a cool little acronym to help you all understand how this bill accomplishes that. Number one, it creates accountability. Number two, it creates data collection. And number three, it creates deterrence. And I think that those things are important. Just to add some more statistics, between 2016 and 2021, suicides accounted for 36% of firearm-related deaths among children between the ages of 10 and 19. And what my bill does, and it's named after Francesco, who tragically took his own life on October 21st, 2021 with an unsecured firearm. And so what my bill does is not only provide that additional education and resources needed, but it ensures accountability for those who do not properly store their firearms. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Angelino.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Only for you, Mr. Angelino.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you, sir. Your tie is very straight.
Well, you helped me out earlier. It was a good birthday gift. I appreciate it.
First off, any of my line of questioning has nothing to do with the tragedy involved with the person the act is named for. And actually, most of the questions I'm going to ask will be questions that are asked of me when I return back to my big rural district. So whatever comes out of your mouth is later going to come out of mine to explain. All right?
Awesome.
So first off, we had a safe storage bill that I'm looking at now, has a lot of it repealed or deleted in red. What was wrong with that? What hole or gap are you trying to fix?
Yeah, so what we did in my legislation here, Francesco's law, we removed some amendments for felony penalties, and we looked at additional supports for information so to ensure that people can get information. So my bill actually requires the New York State Department, the New York State DCJS to be able to collect data, right, which is really important so we can know how many of these suicides or instances where people get access to firearms who are underage. Number two, so it creates that campaign. Number two, it ensures that minors, this is the most important thing of the bill, Mr. Mornell, the minors won't have access, and if a minor gets access to a firearm, there are penalties in place there as high as a Class A misdemeanor.
Okay, so I see where the green portion talks a lot about that study portion of this. But let's talk about the red that you deleted or repealed. Was there something wrong with that needed to be filled in?
Can you just repeat that?
The green portion, I'm looking on here. The green portion is new. And that's a lot about the study and some exceptions.
Yeah, you're talking about the additions we made.
Yes,
and so what we did was we added reporting and data collection. If you look at the final section of the bill, page 3, we added and gave directives to GCJS to be able to collect data so that we can know. And this is important. Let me just finish. This is important because on the federal level, we're not collecting data presently because that Office of Gun Violence Prevention is no longer in existence. And so what my bill does is it adds and gives directives to DCJS to be able to collect data on that.
Okay, so that's what you added.
Good.
And the red section that you deleted, the strikeout or the repeal, what was wrong with that?
No, nothing was wrong with it. And I think the reason why we made that change is we wanted to make it in alignment with the gold standard. There are several states presently, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Hawaii, Minnesota that have similar laws, and so we wanted to just match that standard.
All right. So there's a section in there, I think it's the exceptions. One of them is unlawful entry. What is unlawful entry? Does that mean burglary? Or does that mean actually defeating the locking device or the safe?
So you're asking me, so unlawful entry could be burglary, right? That a charge hasn't been, I mean, that's a criminal charge, right? So you'd have to give me more specifics on the circumstance of somebody entering a property unlawfully.
The new section in green, line 40, if a person obtained the firearm, shotgun, whatever, as a result of unlawful entry, does that mean into the safe or locking device or just into the home?
Into the home.
So if somebody unlawfully, and we're talking about maybe somebody who resides there who is prohibited, if they unlawfully enter the safe or gun vault, that's not covered?
No, it could be both.
Okay.
It could be both. And just keep in mind, I know you use the word safe, but there are a variety of different ways that you can secure your firearm. It doesn't have to necessarily be a safe.
And we will get to that.
I am awaiting it.
And the next exception is a person obtains the firearm, rifle, or shotgun in a lawful act of self-defense or defense of another person. What does that mean in your mind? I don't know what situation that would mean.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a variety of different examples of self-defense. If somebody breaks in your home and you're able to still use your firearm and not be targeted or the target or subject matter that we're looking to regulate with this piece of legislation.
Or even one of the prohibited people or a 15-year-old, they can then possess this. It says a person obtains it in a lawful act of self-defense.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at the following section, if a minor obtains the firearm for self-defense, that's also perfectly okay in this instance of this piece of legislation.
That's in there?
Correct.
I guess I missed that. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yep.
Where I live, youth are very accustomed to handling firearms. We have a lot of high school firearms teams of various size and style. Is there anything in here that says you cannot or is illegal to store your firearm loaded?
This is not germane to the bill. This is not germane to the bill. Thank you for that question. So there's nothing particularly in the bill that says that the firearm has to be stored loaded or unloaded.
Okay, so that's not covered. So a loaded firearm stored securely is legal.
Correct.
Thank you. So if I live alone, I don't have to store my weapon anyplace. I can leave it right on my bedstand? Or if it's just me and my wife, who's over 18?
No. You
I
have
can't-
to have the legislation that was passed prior that required safe storage that ensures that a firearm is stored safely is the same standards are there. Again, my bill only focuses on minors and those minors getting access to the firearm.
So whether
if you presently store it in a safe, if you use a locking mechanism that is proved, you're still able to do that.
Okay, but that sounds like I must do that. So if I live home alone, I still have to secure my loaded weapon in some sort of manner.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's pre this bill in that regard.
Okay, and does this mention owner? I saw something about custodian. What does custodian mean?
I think it's safe to say the custodian is the owner, but I want to make sure I double check my notes. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so this bill doesn't change what's in current law in terms of ownership
Okay,
and
again,
custodian. So that whatever presently exists, this doesn't change that. Remember,
Okay.
we're only dealing with minors here, for the most part, this legislation.
right, but adults have to own the firearm.
Well, I'm
So-
sorry.
Only an adult can own the firearm, and we're trying to protect minors from obtaining it. So,
Correct.
So adults are involved in this.
Correct.
Okay, so am I responsible for my firearm if I'm going on vacation and I take it to a friend's house? Please secure this while I'm away so nothing happens. Am I still responsible for that as the owner, or is he now the custodian and responsible?
It's a good question. Let me look at my notes. It's a very good hypothetical, very important.
Yeah, these are all things that happen where I live.
Yeah, oh yeah. So let me just counter that with a question, just so I can get to you to a better answer. Is the person who's watching the firearm the owner of the firearm, or is it almost like I don't want to use the word babysitting, but
No, you're my neighbor. I'm going on vacation.
Sure.
Hey, I'm bringing over my expensive jewelry, and this is my prized shotgun. Can you please safeguard this? I'll be back in a week. Am I now responsible, or are you?
I think he's right. Yeah, the onus is on the owner to make sure that it's secure.
That's a problem. But otherwise, I can't take it with me. TSA really frowns on that. So, again, another common thing. Firearms displayed in the open, family heirloom that's still a working hunting rifle or shotgun up above the fireplace. It has a trigger lock on it. Is that safely stored?
No, it would need to be safely stored.
In here someplace, I read where it has to be, a trigger lock is considered a locking device.
It's one of many.
But that's a storage device in here, if it's trigger locked.
One moment, I'm going to check my notes.
I'll be going over 15. Thank you.
So I'm sorry? So when we're talking about safe dispository, it is defined as a safe or other secure container which, when locked, is incapable of being opened without the key, keypad, combination, or other unlocking mechanism, and is capable of preventing any unauthorized person from obtaining access to the possession of the weapon contained therein, and shall be fire, impact, or tamper resistant. So that's what's on statute presently.
Okay. And let me just get this one out of the way, because this is going to be a question I'm going to get asked.
Certainly.
Firearms displayed in museums?
Firearms displayed in museums,
Yes.
do they require, are you asking if they're required to be safely stored? Or what the safe storage standards are
Can
for
they
fire?
still be displayed 24/7, and when the museum is closed? That's going to get asked.
Yeah, technically, yes. So you're thinking about a museum, it's there for historical purposes, it's there for individuals to study, yes.
Yes, it has to be.
Yes, it has to be stored. Yes.
Okay, this is causing a lot of handling of firearms, and that's a dangerous situation too. The more they get handled. Section 4, line 32. That repeals, correct me if I'm wrong, people under 18 with hunting licenses.
If you look further down on page 3, it's re-added further down in the bill.
Okay, which brings me to
So,
the next. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So that brings me to the next. Currently, environmental conservation law allows 16 and 17-year-olds to hunt alone. Is that still going to be allowed?
Yeah. So if you look at page 3, sections 20 to 23, a rifle or shotgun for lawful use as authorized by Article 11 of the Environmental Conservation Law, when such person less than 18 years of age is the holder of a hunter's license or permit, such rifle or shotgun is used in accordance with such law. So that answers your question.
So that's an exemption, because if it's safely stored at home, there's a 16 or 17-year-old that does have access, correct? They can hunt alone, they have to have access to it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. In my district, there's a lot of people from your neck of the woods that own collective hunting camps. And, they'll show up, maybe 5 or 6 owners, and they're a favorite target of burglary, drives us nuts. People leave their firearms there legally locked in a safe, and a window gets broken and the safe gets carried away. Are they responsible? There's a burglary, they were locked in a gun vault and still stolen. And is,
Yeah. So if and I'm just assuming in this example that the owner properly secured their firearm, then they wouldn't be held liable in the terms of this piece of legislation.
this is the unlawful entry section, exception.
Correct.
Okay. That happens a lot. I believe that's all the questions I have, but I would like to go on the bill briefly.
On the bill,
Thank
you're
you.
going to buzz, so you could go over after the buzzer.
I think I went over like 2 seconds ago, but thank
No,
you.
not yet.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. On the bill, I know everybody's thinking that where I live, there's not a lot of people shooting other people. However, what is needed and gets used often, and firearms are readily available, a lot of my farm families have very valuable animals, and they have alarms set up in barns and areas like that. And when that alarm goes off, a motion or whatever, they have to quickly dispatch a predator. And that happens often. And they're probably just going to ignore this because those animals are worth a misdemeanor charge. They're thousands of dollars, either horse, sheep, or livestock and cattle. But I'm not going to get on the tangent of self-protection because that's a whole nother game. I understand the intent of this. A lot of people where I live would consider this an infringement. But I yield back my time, madams. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gallahan.
Madam Speaker, will the sponsor yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Only if you cook for me, Mr. Gallagher.
The sponsor yields.
I've invited you up many times.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
I just need a couple questions answered for clarification.
Certainly.
Page 1, line 45, this is considered a violation. And then on page 3, line 24, it is considered a Class A misdemeanor. There's some confusion there for me.
Special cases. Yeah. So a misdemeanor across the board in terms of lack of safe storage, which is a new addition, is very important. Violation, excuse me. And then the misdemeanor comes into play if a minor gets access to the firearm.
Okay. Thank you. This pertains to firearms in the home. In 2000, from what I understand, in 2018, I started a team, trap team at our local high school, and it's the New York State High School Trap Shooting Association. And we have kids from 12 to 18, or seniors could be 19 years of age, that are part of this program. We have 30 shooters, And I'm wondering if any of this pertains to storage when those minors handle firearms at the gun club.
No, sir, Mr. Gallahan, this does not change current law in that regard.
So the 16 and 17-year-olds that have driver's licenses that go home, pick up the firearm from the safe, and drive that firearm in their vehicle to the gun club are not in violation.
As long as they safely store it. I think as long as they safely store it. Yeah. So to your point, Mr. Gallahan, if they're at the range with supervision, then they're totally fine with this piece of legislation. The issue comes into play when traveling with the
The
firearm,
issue comes into play, I'm sorry.
which is not okay under current law.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
So if a 16, in your example, if a 16 or 17-year-old is driving with a firearm not properly secure, that's not, this law wouldn't change anything that presently exists with traveling.
So as long as it's properly stored in the vehicle, transporting it from the home to the gun club alone as a minor is legal.
Yeah, so again, this, Mr. Gallahan, this doesn't change anything under current law. A 16 or 17-year-old can't drive with a firearm in the car. Presently.
I would beg to differ that. I checked with our local law enforcement when I started this club because we had kids driving, and I was told by our local sheriff that if they have a valid driver's license, they have this gun stored in the vehicle in a case, that
Wait,
it
I'm
is
sorry,
legal.
but in this example, is the teen supervised or unsupervised?
Unsupervised.
No adult with the teen?
No, sir.
Yeah, my legislation doesn't interact in that way.
It does not
It's
interact.
not, no.
So the same thing would go for a minor that would be going squirrel hunting,
No, we don't, this doesn't do that.
transporting the firearm in the vehicle to the field that his parents own or whatever. He has a valid hunting license. He has his training, New York State hunting training certificate, fully legal to hunt small game by himself after the age of 16 or 17 or 18-year-old kid. Same thing would apply there, correct?
It's a good question again, Mr. Gallahan. So just to be very, very clear, this doesn't change current laws related to hunting. If you look at pages 2 and 3, there's carve out specifically for hunting and individuals who are under the age of 18 and hunt. And it just makes sure that those individuals are not encapsulated by this legislation.
Okay, thank you very much for answering my questions. I appreciate it. On the bill.
Thank you.
On the bill.
I also have the same concerns that my colleague that just debated the bill has. And quite frankly, we have a lot of older folks in my neighborhoods, no children in their homes. They feel the need for protection, and I know several of my constituents have firearms behind their bedroom doors, and I just don't see them trying to conform with this law, but I will be able to fully explain this to them now, and I appreciate the sponsor answering my questions so that I know there's no changes to the system that we're currently using. I checked with local law enforcement to make sure that we were within the confines of the law with our drivable students. And I have to put a shameless plug in. Sunday afternoon, I did take that team to Cicero, New York for the New York State Trap Shooting Championships. And our little school that graduates 55 kids finished second in the state. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
Congratulations. Mr. Molitor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Certainly, Mr. Molitor.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. So I wasn't here when this original legislation got passed, but I got some questions that mostly have to do with page 2 and some of the exceptions that were added into the law.
Certainly, but just, I wasn't here either.
All right,
That makes two of us.
2 of us. So just want to make sure I understand this. If I have a firearm in my house, it has to be in safe storage at all times.
Correct.
And safe storage means what again?
Can read that definition for you. Give me 1 second. All right. A gun must be stored in a safe storage depository or rendering incapable of being fired by use of a gun locking device appropriate to that weapon. This could include simple devices such as a cable lock, which often come with guns when they are sold, or if you don't have one, they cost as little as $10 and can be locked with a key. A safe storage depository, in terms of its legal definition, which I think that's what you're getting at, Mr. Molitor, is defined as a safe or other secure container, which when locked is incapable of being opened without the key, keypad, combination, or any other unlocking mechanism, and is capable of preventing an unauthorized person from obtaining access to the possession of the weapon contained therein, and shall be fire, impact, and tamper resistant. So if you want, you can get biometrics too. Biometric safe.
And if I...
Those are a little bit more expensive than the $10 locks.
I understand. And if I don't comply with that law, it's a non-criminal violation. Isn't that correct?
Yes, it's a non-criminal violation if you don't comply with the law, and then the misdemeanor comes in with a child, when a child is involved.
Okay. And one of the exceptions to that violation is on page 2, line 40, if a person obtained the firearm, rifle, or shotgun as a result of unlawful entry by any person.
Correct.
So,
And self-defense is another one of the, right below it.
we might get there. We'll see.
Okay, okay.
I'm trying to understand here.
Let me not get ahead of
So-
you, Mr. Molitor.
So in the event that there's unlawful entry into my home, I'm allowed to obtain a weapon that doesn't necessarily need to be in safe storage at that moment?
I don't understand the question, Mr. Molitor. Can you rephrase it?
Yeah. So let's say every day I kept my, handgun on my nightstand. Mm-hmm. Every day of the year I would be in violation of this law, except that one moment in which somebody enters my home unlawfully. Under this, then I would not be in violation of the law. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I just want you to understand that we're not having police going to everybody's house and check and proactive in that sense.
Yeah.
We're just trying to create a culture where individuals know to lock up their firearms, to store safely, et cetera. Similar to the campaign that was run before my time around seatbelts, making sure that people understand the importance of wearing a seatbelt. This is exactly the culture that we're trying to promote in terms of safe storage.
And so let's take the second exception. And I understand all that. Let's take the second exception. Every day of the year that I keep my handgun in my car, I would be in violation of the law, except for that circumstance where somebody maybe tries to take my car from me at gunpoint. And then in that case, because I'm defending myself, I'm complying with the self-defense laws of the state of New York, I would not be in violation of the law.
Yeah. So I think your hypothetical goes out of the bounds of the exceptions that I'm talking about. This is really about safe storage.
So both of my hypotheticals?
No, just that last one.
That last one does not?
Yeah,
Isn't self-defense for robbery a permissible use of?
No, the example you gave was with traveling, no?
Yeah, under your law, I'm required to keep my firearm in storage when I'm in a vehicle, am I not?
Correct.
But if someone's trying to rob me of my vehicle, I can use that weapon in self-defense. And if
Self-defense, correct.
And if it's not in safe storage, I would not be in violation of this law.
Correct, self-defense exception.
Okay. Okay, thank you for answering my questions, Mr. Anderson.
Certainly.
On the bill.
On the bill.
So, I understand the purpose of this law, and I do think making the punishment for violating this law a violation instead of a misdemeanor makes this law better. My concern is that you're asking New Yorkers in this bill to make a judgment call. Should they, put a lock on their weapon, on their firearm, or put, their firearm in a biometric safe, which, by the way, doesn't work all the time. I have one. Doesn't work all the time. And you're asking them to make a judgment call about something that they cannot predict. You cannot predict when somebody else in this world is going to perpetuate violence against you. And this puts people in incredibly compromising situations. Yes, nobody wants a firearm to be used by a minor in a terrible situation like suicide. I mean, that's just terrible. Nobody wants that to happen. But, if you're trying to protect yourself, you're trying to protect your home and your family, you sometimes make this judgment call that I would rather have my weapon easily accessible to me so that I can defend my home and my family than, maybe put a safety device on it that isn't necessarily, or that's going to create more problems. As I mentioned many times, I've been a prosecutor. Burglaries in the middle of the night from complete strangers happen more often than you think. They're terrifying situations. If you've never seen Night Stalker on Netflix about Richard Ramirez, I suggest you watch it. You will purchase a firearm after watching that. So for all those reasons, and because I also think this violates the Second Amendment, I'll be voting in the negative. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bailey?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the sponsor yield for a couple questions?
Will the sponsor yield?
Only for you, Ms. Bailey.
Sponsor yields.
I've heard you say that once before, but I'll just pretend it's the
I'm
first
getting
time
in trouble
I heard
now.
it
I'm
today.
cheating. Go ahead.
So I just, as I sit here and listen, I just need some clarity. So in 2022, CCIA came out, and that is where the safe storage portion of this legislation came into play under 265 that you're looking to make some changes to. Aside from the reporting and the data that will be collected, aside from changing the failure to safely store rifles, shotguns, and firearms from a first Class A misdemeanor, now it's a violation, and then adding pieces as to when you could do it, I'm stuck on the minor portion of it, and as my colleagues have said, it's absolutely a travesty what happened. But when I'm reading the legislation the way that it was written in 2022, was that not already the intent of the legislation that was put forward?
Certainly. And so in addition to that, going back to my cool little acronym that I made up with this bill, ADD, accountability, data, deterrence, right? And so what this piece of legislation does is it aligns it with the gold standard of safe storage. So we already have safe storage laws, but this further perfects it so that individuals who are in households, let's say I'm an individual and I visit a friend's house, I'm covered under this law if an individual whose house I go and visit doesn't properly, lock their firearm. That was a loophole that wasn't covered prior. And in this instance, if you look at the sponsor's memo, I talk about the story of Francesco where this painful incident took place. And so what we're trying to do is just protect to ensure that type of instance doesn't happen again.
Okay, so then I guess my next question is going to lead me to, during, when CCIA was enacted, the state police, along with DCJS, were charged with making many implementations. One thing that they did a great job with was some frequently asked questions pieces of it. So specifically, I guess what I'm looking at to help guide residents back at home, when we're looking at the frequently asked questions that they had put out under how am I required to store my guns in my home, it specifically says if anyone younger than 18 years old or anyone who is prohibited from possessing a gun resides in the home, all firearms, rifles, and shotguns not in your immediate control must either be. But then it goes on to state that you are responsible even if those individuals are in your home. So I guess your intent is to make it clearer if my son invites a friend over who is a minor, to ensure that our guns are safely stored. That's the part that I'm struggling with. I thought that the legislation already covered that.
Sure. So clarifies, number one. And number two, if you look at page 3, lines 40 to 47, specifically we're looking to collect data in these instances. So that's important, right? Presently, we don't collect data. So what my bill does is it directs the DCJS through the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, which is newly moved into that agency respectively, to begin to collect data and also to begin a campaign of sorts to educate individuals. So it kind of answers one of the other questioners' question about how we would educate the masses, if you will, our constituents, if you will, about the specifics and the particulars. So it charges that agency to do that as well.
Okay, thank you. I have another quick question. So
Sure.
I see that we're only amending Section 265 with this piece of legislation. Also under Penal Law 400.18, as far as notice upon issuance of a license, specifically in and around pistol permits, there is communication that must be handed out to all permit holders. Based on your legislation, do you anticipate that communication is going to be altered as far as the wording that is in it?
No.
So your bill meets, it aligns with that?
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
Yep.
And I believe that those were my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey.
Mr. Riley,
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
will the sponsor yield?
I,
Said, we won't put it on the record. Go ahead,
you
Mr.
can.
Riley.
You
Sponsor
can.
yields.
I actually just have 2 questions.
Sure.
And it's basically piggybacking off of what Ms. Bailey said. So the law mandates distribution of safe storage materials.
Correct.
Who's going to be responsible?
DCJS, Office of Gun Violence Prevention.
Okay. Is there funding allocated for that?
No, this is a function of the office already to do public information campaigns and PSAs.
Okay. Who are they going to? Who is the campaign going to target? Is it going to be mailers? Is it going to be TV?
I can't get into the specifics of the different strategies that the agency uses. They have a variety of different tools. It could be PSAs, it could be commercials, it could be mailers, it can be paper clips, it could be, keychains. I don't know how they're gonna do it.
Okay. So we're not delineating in this legislation
No.
how they're going to do it.
Nope.
Okay.
But I
Second
hope they
piece.
do
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I hope they do a good job, because that's going to be the most important thing in getting the information out.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the data collection mandate. So states in here that the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, right, is going to collect the data.
Certainly.
What specific data are we looking at? Will it be those incidents that happen with licensed owned firearms and those firearms that are illegally held too?
Instances where an individual is charged with either a violation or a Class A misdemeanor for the wrongful access to an unsafely stored firearm. So that data, we want to make sure that the state is collecting it so that we're continuing to actively course correct. If we see a cluster of this issue happening in the area, the agency will come out, do education, and things of that like.
Okay, so it'll encompass any incident involving a firearm, whether it was legally owned or illegally owned?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Will local law enforcement agencies be required to submit that data to the Office of Gun Violence?
Presently, local law, so DCJS serves as the central police agency for the state. So all data from all police forces go to DCJS presently. So this will just be adherent to that.
Okay, so the mechanism's already there.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
I'm tight here. We're well wrapped.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Lamondes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Only if you take me to your sheep farm, Mr.
The
Lamonde.
sponsor yields.
I fully intend to, Mr. Anderson. Thank you. A couple things with regard to this bill. If I understand correctly, based on everything else that's taken place, if I'm defending myself, my weapon doesn't have to be secured, correct? Within my home.
Correct.
So how does one know when they are going to be in the act of defending themselves from a home invasion? Typically, people that are breaking in don't telegraph and tell you in advance.
Yeah. You know, with this hypothetical, Mr. Lamondes, I just want to be really careful. Police, in my legislation, we're not having police go door to door to checking folks are safely storing and securing their firearm. We're trying to merely encourage folks to do the right thing. And of course, if you know somebody that's not doing the right thing, as legislators, we're all mandated reporters.
So let me ask the question differently then.
Sure.
And I was going to get to who's responsible for enforcement and how would enforcement
Understood.
be undertaken. I'll come back to that. Again, so I go to my home tonight. I go to sleep because you're coming over to visit my farm tomorrow morning. And somebody
If they let me out of here.
somebody invades my home, but my weapons are secure.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the home invasion standard is before the advantage goes to the person breaking in versus the inhabitants of the dwelling?
I don't know if that's germane to the bill, Mr. Lamondes. I think what I'm looking for and we're trying to accomplish is, again, the safe standards as it relates to security. Of course, you're not going to get a heads up about a invasion just as much you won't get a heads up about an earthquake. And we still have to purchase earthquake insurance or flood insurance. So, I mean, that's just the challenges that stand in the way.
Right. We can disagree about germaneness. It's less than 10 seconds, for the record. So I don't know about you, but I couldn't flip the dial on my gun safe from my bed in less than 10 seconds when somebody's invading my home.
And keep in mind, though, Mr. Lamondes, and I actually have a little photo here, there are many, many different tools that you can use to safely store your firearm. It could be biometrics, which I think one of your colleagues said is a little difficult. It could be the $10 lock. There's a variety of different ways you could use the technology that exists presently if you need to access your firearm in a quick manner.
I'll tell you, this is not germane. I'm going to put this question out very simply without expecting an answer. If you have ever had your home invaded, it's very stressful. And I can speak from personal experience, I have. This bill would preempt one from protecting themselves and their family. If it was followed to the letter, it would preempt that, or preclude that, excuse me.
I respectfully disagree, Mr.
Of
Melendez,
course,
but
I would
understand
expect
where you're
so. But I'll
coming
tell you, even with all of my training in the military, everything that I've done, a home invasion, when you're home, right here in New York, is very, very stressful. And it takes a lot of discipline that the average person doesn't have to deal with that successfully. Anyways, I understand the intent of this. I think the intent is noble. However, the execution, I believe, is faulty. One other question. In the sponsor's memo, it mentioned data collection. Who is collecting data, from whom and to whom?
Yeah, so number one, DCJS presently, again, is a centralized police force, a police data collection entity for the state of New York. So for the first part of your question, police forces already across the state are reporting to DCJS that data. Number two, district attorneys are a part of that ecosystem, so data will be reported by them as well, and this will help inform us where instances of this issue is existing.
Okay, let me peel that back a little further. Does this bill require firearm owners to report every firearm by type that they have in their home?
It does not. That's not germane to this bill. It does not.
Is there any other data that's required that the firearm and or homeowner is required to report?
No.
Okay. Mr. Anderson, thank you for your questions. Madam, Mr. Speaker,
Certainly.
on the bill.
On the bill.
I simply can't support this for multiple reasons. I think it defeats the purpose, and as has been said by one of my colleagues already, I believe that's in violation of the Second Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manctolo,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
will the sponsor yield?
I will yield.
Thank you, Mr.
He
Anderson.
yields.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just for a couple points of clarification, just so I understand this. So I have my grandfather's shotgun that was given to me. It's above the mantle, above my wood stove. Can it be up there?
Yep, it can be up there as long as it has a safety lock on it.
So as long as it has a safety lock on it of some sorts, it can be up there.
Correct.
Perfect, thank you. My second question.
Sure.
You had talked to, I think, my colleague earlier on about museums and stuff like that.
Certainly.
And
Good
did I
places to
hear
visit.
you, what happens with the guns that are at a museum at the close of the museum?
Nothing. This is not germane to the bill on that specific example that you've given, and the reason being is because when you have the functions of a museum, it's for learning and history, it's not for use, and those guns wouldn't be activated or be able to be used. So you can't use them. They're just for show.
Okay, so like the ones that are at the New York State Military Museum up in Saratoga.
Sure.
They're in glass cases. That's all acceptable. All right, thank you for your answers.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. A party vote has been requested. Who is that? Mr. Gandolfo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Republican conference will generally be opposed to this piece of legislation. However, any members who wish to vote yes may do so at their desks.
Mr. Levine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the majority conference will generally be voting in the affirmative on this particular bill. And if any of the majority members want to vote otherwise, they are invited to go to their desks and vote in the negative. Thank you.
The clerk will record the vote. Mr. Anderson, to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Francesco didn't have an opportunity to live to the age of 18. And as it's painful that we even have to have this particular piece of legislation in his memory. And as his parents and loved ones sit in this chamber and listen to today's debate, I know it's heart-wrenching. But this piece of legislation ensures that we can hold individuals accountable and that we can encourage safe storage in the state of New York. New York should be leading the way. We should be living at the gold standard here in the state of New York with safe storage. And I think that my piece of legislation accomplishes that, and I commend the family for sharing their trauma, their pain, and their struggles for the weeks that they spent here in Albany. I thank my colleagues and their variety of opinions, and I thank one of my colleagues who worked tirelessly to ensure that we can have this fight here today. I withdraw my request and proudly vote in the affirmative.
Mr. Anderson, in the affirmative. Ms. Chandler Waterman.
Mr. Speaker, as we recognize June as Gun Violence Awareness Month, we must take into account all incidents where gun violence is at play, with illegal guns and legal gun ownership. We must take into account and address the illegal guns that are infiltrating our communities, which unfortunately are used for most shootings in districts like mine. We also must address legal gun owners and ensure that guns are safely stored, especially where minors are present. Francesco was a young man with a bright future, and if we had this law in place, he would be with us today. Francesco died by suicide in 2021 with an unsecured firearm. He was just 17 years old and was a victim of bullying because of his sexual orientation. Between 2016 and 2021, suicides accounted for 36% of firearm-related death among children ages 10 to 19 years of age. Implementing and enforcing safe storage laws promote a culture of responsible gun ownership. Furthermore, 66% of unintentional fatal firearm shootings involving children occurred when the firearm was being handled or shown by someone else. No one here would ever want to be in a situation as a gun owner where their gun is used by a child out of curiosity or a moment of crisis and then die. I appreciate the hard work of the sponsor, my colleague, Assemblymember Khaleel Anderson, and for his family, his mom who's here today, who turned her pain into purpose so we could say one day, not another child. I will vote in the affirmative, and I encourage all my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Ms. Chandler Waterman, in the affirmative. Mr. Dinowitz, to explain your vote.
I am so happy we are passing this today. While it's too late for Francesco and other people who should not have died, this bill can help make sure that there are other people who won't die in the future. And for Francesco's family and for those who worked so hard to make this bill happen, just know that some lives, we won't know whose, will be saved when this is signed into law. And I also want to say I appreciate very much the incredible work done by the sponsor of this bill. He should be very proud. I vote yes.
Mr. Dinowitz, in the affirmative. Ms. Seawright, to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to explain my vote. Families all across our state deserve the greater protections that Francesco's law would provide from improperly stored and unsecured firearms. Francesco was a brilliant, kind, and talented young man who you've heard grew up on Long Island. And in October of 2021, he took his own life with a family member's unsecured firearm after experiencing relentless bullying over his bisexuality. He was only 17 years of age. Too many children and young people have died across our nation as a result of gaining access to a loaded firearm that was left unsecured. No parent like Francesco's mother, Diana, who's in the chamber today, and godmother Jennifer, who's here with us, should ever have to go through the pain of losing their child because a gun owner carelessly failed to secure and storely safe their gun. I am proud to cast my vote today in honor of Francesco's law, and I thank the bill sponsor for all of his hard work and the advocates and the mother and godmother for their work in making this bill a reality. Thank you.
Ms. Seawright in the affirmative. Ms. Gonzalez Rojas to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Francesco's story hit me hard as a parent of a teenager who was also bisexual and also bullied. And the fact that he had access to an unsecured firearm shows the challenges that we face in this country. We're facing both an environment where children are relentlessly bullied for their gender and sexuality and their expression, and we're facing a mental health crisis amongst our young people. All the while where firearms are not locked away and secured. I want to thank the sponsor for his relentless advocacy from the heart, and his parents who shared their pain over and over again to make sure that no further child would experience this. And in honor of Francesco and the countless other children whose lives were lost due to an unsecure firearm, I'm proud to vote in the affirmative, and I urge my colleagues to do so as well. Thank you so much.
Ms. Gonzalez Rojas in the affirmative. Mr. Gallahan to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have several firearms. Every one of them is securely secured. And the reason for that wasn't a law 50 years ago when I had my first firearm. The reason for that was education. Education, when I took my hunter safety course. Education that has been improved over the years and now mandated when you have an application for a pistol permit. 2.5 days of training. The same thing with a semi-automatic rifle, training. I would ask, this is the second ask I've had this year, my colleagues on the other side to sit down with me and construct education in high schools, just like the health class, that teaches each and every child in our school system firearm safety. Nothing is a substitute for education. Nothing. Responsible gun owners lock their guns away, and they're going to continue to lock their guns away. But these children that come up through, when they find a firearm or they see a firearm and they're not trained, do they know what to do? Do they know what not to do? Do they know who to report it to? They will if we educate them. And education in our schools will save many lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
How do you vote?
I'll be in the negative on this bill.
Mr. Gallahan in the negative. Ms. Lunsford to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was trying to find some statistics about how many shootings there are in home invasions versus children who accidentally shoot themselves, and I really couldn't find statistics. So I thank the sponsor for putting data collection in here, because we don't really have this information. We just hear anecdotal stories. But what I do know is that 80% of gun owners support safe storage laws. Responsible gun owners safely store their weapons. That's what you do. But yet, according to a study last year, 43% of households still store loaded guns, and just under half have guns loaded with ammunition not in lockers. Don't responsible gun owners want everybody to be responsible? Don't we want this for people, for everyone to act the way responsible people would? This mandate will not only allow us to provide more education and to put some teeth behind it, but it'll attach liability for situations where people are not being responsible and it leads to unintentional deaths. That's what this is for. It's important. And I've said this on this floor before, and I'm going to say it again. The reason so many toddlers shoot themselves is because their index fingers are too weak and they turn the gun around to use their thumb. And if that doesn't haunt you, I don't know what will. In addition to that, in addition to accidental firearm deaths and suicides, according to a Department of Justice article about safe storage gun laws from 2023, the majority of individuals who carried out a K-12 mass shooting obtained the firearms used in the shooting from a family member in an unsecured gun. Further, between 2005 and 2010, in home burglaries and other property crimes, 1.4 million firearms were stolen. Safe storage helps that too. I don't know why anyone would oppose us safely storing guns. It saves lives and it keeps illegal guns off the street. I'll be voting in the affirmative.
Ms. Lunsford in the affirmative. Ms. Peoples-Stokes to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to explain my vote. I want to congratulate the sponsor of this legislation. First of all, I think he did an amazing job of debating a very well-crafted bill. And as a daughter of a Mason, some Masons were in our chambers a few weeks ago, I was trained and educated on how to use a weapon. We went to the Big Hill Hunting and Fishing Club on a regular basis. Not only did we run track and play dodgeball, but we also learned how to shoot weapons. And as a result of that, I, as an adult, am licensed, but I'm also gonna lock them up and keep them locked up. And so it was mentioned on this floor already once. I will mention it again. A responsible gun owner has no problem securing their weapons, none. And so if there's someone who has a problem with that, then that means they're not responsible and they shouldn't have the weapon. So I look forward to voting in affirmative on this piece of legislation.
Ms. Peoples-Stokes in the affirmative. Ms. Griffin to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to explain my vote. Thank you to Assemblymember Anderson for sponsoring this important legislation. I'm proud to be a co-sponsor and support this measure that will save lives. Safe gun storage is vital, and this measure will pave the way. Thinking of Francesco and his amazing family. The courage his mom showed when she met with me to share the tragedy of losing her son was truly heartbreaking, but also inspiring that she could come to Albany, visit so many people, and talk about that story over and over again. So I just want to say thank you for coming here. Thank you for setting an example. Thank you for your advocacy. And I want to say love to Francesco, his memory, and love to his family. Thank you. I vote.
Ms. Griffin in the affirmative. Mr. Schiavone to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to applaud the sponsor for bringing this law forward. I too believe in education. In fact, I made a career as an educator dealing with people whose frontal lobes are not fully developed. I know teenagers, they're impulsive. Coupled with our mental health crisis that our children are facing, I believe that this law is more than appropriate at this time. And I think about the people, the children that I have known over my career who have died by suicide. It's tough, it rocks a community, and I do believe that safe storage laws do save lives, that they will save lives, and had they been in place, they would have saved the lives of the young people that I've known. Thank you. I will be voting in the affirmative.
Mr. Schiavone in the affirmative. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 93, noes 48.
The bill has passed.